And we're going to jump now. We're going to jump now to our next segment. This is the part of the show, it's the most important part of the show, where we check out some of the awesome homebrew content that has come out of our Discord. Again, you can get a link to that just by jumping on our website, dndtime.stream, and clicking the Discord button right on the top bar. But yeah, this is all going to be content that our community has created, shared in our workshop channel, and we're just showing it off. Maybe giving a couple of constructive tips here and there. But the main goal here is just to show off some of the really cool stuff that hasn't gone around yet. I know some of this stuff was from the other week before our previous show, but I figured, it hadn't come up on here yet, so we bring it back up. Right off the bat, we're going to start with this Fey Blood Sorcerer or Sorceress, depending on how you want. From Cherry, i.e. Rosia in chat. Hello, I saw you a minute ago, Rosia. But yeah, it's the Fey Bloodline Sorcerer. I mean, right off the bat, the whole point of a sorcerer is that their spirit or their soul has somehow been changed or altered by otherworldly magic. And Fey is a perfect, the first question here I have in terms of answering, is there space for this in 5th edition D&D? Why isn't this a thing yet in 5e? That's so cool. Very, very awesome concept. Let's jump right in. So as a sorcerer, you're going to get your Sorcerer's Origin at 1st level. Again, it's core to your character. And then you're going to get more stuff at 6th level, again at 14th level. So there's some big, big dips in between, and then actually get a capstone at 18th. So right off the top, Rosia, just looking at what you have here, I think you've really made a huge stride. I know you can get really excited sometimes when you're building stuff, and this is a very, very digestible amount of material. I know sometimes you can run off and just get so inspired to write a ton. This is a lot. This is a very good amount of material for a subclass. So right there, thumbs up, hats off. Making huge strides already over some of the previous stuff you've been working on. Let's start. At 1st level, you inherit the skills of trickery and curiosity of your Fey ancestors and gain the ability to imbue spells into a number of items equal to your charisma plus your proficiency bonus and use them as traps. Ooh, interesting. Each item can hold up to 1 spell at a time. The charges that stay in the item until consumed. You can set a condition to trigger or trigger remotely as a bonus action. You also gain the ability to learn spells from others as if you are a wizard. Copy the spell down into a book and refer to later. The copying of a spell is 25 gold and takes 30 minutes to copy it down for each spell. You can prepare spells as if you are a wizard, and you can prepare a number of spells equal to your charisma modifier plus proficiency and cast with your charisma modifier. You can change the spells you prepared every short or long rest. You can also cast illusion-based spells without concentration or material components. Okay, so level 1 feature off the bat, that's pretty strong. Comparing to probably the strongest, or one of the strongest features that a sorcerer gets is a Divine Soul Sorcerer. And had time to put it on the whetstone. Yeah, exactly, Rolia. Sometimes you just gotta whittle it down. But one of the more powerful features well, first, I see this as 2 features, right? This is the first one, which is you can put spells and stuff. And then is almost like a second little feature, right? You can learn new spells. The learn spells is a little weird. The first one part, I really like. I like the concept of being able to set little traps with spells. I'm not sure where this stands. I might look at the spell Glyph of Warding, which is a 3rd level spell, as a place to find some text that would help you to refine this a little bit. Because as it stands, you set the number of items it can use, right? You set that you can set conditions to trigger them or trigger remotely as a bonus action. I mean, I guess it works. I'm just a little concerned with obviously you cast the spell, right, to make it as a thing. And the thing that really confuses me is the charges stay until consumed. That's where it just gets a little funky. I think these need to be, until you finish a short or long rest or something along that line. The second part, which is learning spells, I think this is getting a little too into the wizard's grill. It's just a little too wizardy to me. How I would change that, because I think the idea that you're going for, right, is the Fae are resourceful, they're inquisitive, they're curious, and they can just naturally pick things up that others might not be able to. One thing you could say is, rather than learning a spell permanently, maybe they could learn a spell temporarily, right? Like when you see a spell cast, right, you can remember it, and you remember it until you cast it. You can remember and then cast it yourself, and you can do this, once per short or long rest or something like that. Or maybe you can cast a spell in this way until you finish a long rest, at which point you forget. Or you can only have one or two, a certain number of spells remembered like that. I kind of think that maybe makes some more sense. To me, the writing stuff down in a book doesn't feel super Fae, but I did play with the idea, but the feedback I got from that is very bad. People didn't like that concept. Yeah, I'm not sure where to go with you then, Rosia. If your players didn't dig it, obviously, if your players are vibing with this and they're having a lot of fun, stick with it. But if I were making this for like a more public release, I think this is way too much in the wizard's grill. I would think something more of like, you can remember a spell that you can see, and you can have up to blank spells remembered this way. Might be a different direction to take. Charming Presence. At 6th level, every creature that you choose within 60 feet must succeed on Wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC, or be charmed until you leave their sight. When the effect ends, they have no idea that they are charmed. While the target is charmed by you, they ignore the charm effects of others. You can do this 2 times every long rest. You also gain advantage on savings against charms and any Wisdom saving throws. You can use 1 sorcery point to impose disadvantage on others against your charming effect. Okay. Yeah. Cold I think the idea for the traps is that you have to use a spell slot to create a trap. I think is the vibe we're going for there. But at this 6th level feature, I actually like this quite a bit. I like the idea that you have gain advantage on saving those against charms. I think you could even just say you are immune to charm. I think that's like a powerful but really cool feature that you could give them, rather than worrying too much. Otherwise, you could keep it the same. Advantage on Wisdom saves is like good too. I like being able to impose disadvantage on others on other charm effects. What I would probably do is I'd actually, rather than say 1 sorcery point to do that, I might look at the heightened spell meta magic and say, additionally, you gain the heightened spell meta magic if you did not already have it. And, it costs 1 sorcery point for spells that charm creatures or something along that line. The big charm AoE, which she said, can use twice per long rest. The only thing you're missing there is just saying, as an action, each creature that you choose within 60 feet of you must succeed on Wisdom saving throw or be charmed. And I really actually like the idea that while charmed in this way, they ignore the charm effects of others. That's actually a very cool little note there. But otherwise, pretty cool. I like this feature a lot, actually. Cold Spark saying the spell slot for making a trap should be clearer. I would agree. This should say, as an action, you can cast or as an action, choose a spell with a casting time of 1 action and a target, of the target. Because something needs to be some text in here about like how the trap targets the creature. Again, this is if you are making it for a public release. Obviously, if you're just using it for your table, how you adjudicate it's fine. Traps aren't clear because more of an off-combat thing. So I see your idea is it maybe takes like some time to make a trap with this. Okay. It's very cool. V-Bunny is saying 60 feet is a very big radius for the charm. Yeah, it's definitely a big radius, V-Bunny, but I don't know if that's really a problem. Like, that's your core deal, right? Is that 6th level feature. I'm trying to think, what does some of the other sorcerers get? Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe that's fine. I don't know. I don't think there's really necessarily a potential issue with that. I mean, there's a potential, but it's just charm. Like, charm as it stands isn't that strong. Just creatures can't attack you while they're charmed. This probably should say something about, like, if you or your allies harm the creature, right, they can repeat the saving throw. Might be an idea. Yeah. It also might be reasonable to, instead of until you leave their site, for 10 minutes or something. But until you leave their site is very strong. But yeah, it's neat. I like it. Feywalk. At 14th level, you flicker in and out of the Feywild while the prime material plane, and may add your charisma modifier to your armor class, and no longer be affected by magical or non-magical difficult terrain. You may also enter the Feywild with an action and move to 30 feet before you flicker back into existence. While you're in the Feywild, you cannot interact with normal material plane and are considered invisible. You can do this at the cost of 1 sorcery point and lasts for 1 minute. Okay, so you can, like, blink into the Feywild, I think is what you're going for there. With every additional sorcery point you consume, effect lasts for another minute, while flickering you gain advantage on stealth rolls. Okay, so I think the vibe you're going for here is you can. So the first part is you add your charisma modifier to your AC. Totally get that. And then as an action, you can start blinking between the Feywild and the material plane. So basically, you can just teleport up to 30 feet as your movement on your turn. Or up to your movement, probably. And then, yeah, I get this. Gotcha. And then as an action, you can just blink into the Feywild. That's an interesting feature. It's funky because I don't know a lot about the Feywild, to be frank, as much as, like, Pete would. Pete knows a lot about Feywild. But I would say that for an overarching any person's game thing, it's weird. Because I know the Feywild's just a little different. Being able to just be in the Feywild for a minute is a little weird. Blinking in and out of it, I think works. Being able to stay in it for a minute is a little funky because the Feywild is such a crazy and eclectic place. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm not sure how I would change this if I wanted to change this. But again, if your Feywild and your game, like, works for that, there's no real issue. It's a very neat little thing. And then Life of a Fey at 18th level, you're immune to damage, immune to poison damage and the poisoning condition, and diseases and being charmed. And there's the immune to being charmed. There we go. I think you could move that up if you wanted, without being too big of an issue. And you get advantage in saving throws against spells and other magical effects, and do not age. So Life of a Fey at 18th level, I think that's awesome. I think that's a perfect feature, even for, like, a broad release comment. I think that would be perfectly fine. Let's see. Yeah, I see V-Bunny saying, okay, so if I go Paladin and Sorcerer, I get 25 AC because I'm a Warforged and took a fighting style. Yeah, all right, I see. I think you're saying to everybody. Yeah, for a full public release, I think, this Charisma modifier to your armor class, I think this would need some kind of limiter based on the armor you're wearing. Kind of like unarmored defense, actually. I would look at the unarmored defense feature of the monk, and it would just say, instead of wisdom, it'd be charisma. But I think that could be a very cool feature, maybe even to add at first level, instead of the spell part, if you weren't sold on the spell part. But overall, I mean, this is a very cool concept. Thank you very much for sharing, Rosie. I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any other questions. But Ravendale was saying, yeah, for most games I've played, time dilation with the Feywild and material plane's a big deal. Yeah, exactly, Raventail. In a lot of games, being able to teleport, like, into the Fey for an appreciable amount of time is really funky. Like, that can be a little weird for certain players, depending on how they run their games. So I I'm not saying you don't do it for your own thing, but if you were going to make this for a wider audience, that would be something I would consider. Or consider not having necessarily. Or if you're going to have it, right, like not have it be a temporary thing. Like being able to plane shift, right, to the Feywild, that could be cool. And that could be very fitting, using the plane shift spell. But anywho, thank you very much. I hope that was helpful. I actually really like that. I really liked the real bit because we might point out as a potential problem with the multi-class is the charisma modifier to armor class. I think like a Fey bloodline sorcerer with that like unarmored defense with charisma could actually be like that feels like a feature that like could really exist on a real thing, on a real like published class. Let's move on though to our next topic. Thank you again, Rosia, i.e. Cherry, for submitting that. V-Bunny, you had a couple of things to talk about. One is the Nanda Bear, and one is the Icebox. Nanda Bear. Does this have to do with like an ampersand owl bear deal? Let's look at him. Armor class 13, 89 hit points. He can swim, but he's not very good at swimming. The problem with having a 5-foot swim speed, V-Bunny, is normally a creature can swim at half its speed. So by giving him a 5-foot swim speed, you're actually making him worse. Coldspark, I know that you were saying that Draconic already has an armor class calculation, and you're definitely right. It does. I was just saying this also makes sense to me. Having a charisma one with the same kind of vibe. Oh, okay, V-Bunny, the point was to make him worse. Okay, I think the way I would do that, V-Bunny, is I'd put it up here, sure, but I would also give him a feature in his feature section saying poor swimmer, right, or something like that to represent, the Nanda Bear's swim speed is 5 feet. Because of its large size or something like that, the swim speed is 5 feet instead of normal half its speed, or something along those lines. Cool. Let's see. It can pounce. It has magic resistance. What kind of beast? Is this a beast? It's a beast with magic resistance. Got rampage, kind of like a gnoll. What's this creature supposed to extract brain? Hey, buddy, what is this? Wait, immediately after a creature casts a spell, first level or higher than 5 feet of the Nanda Bear, the Nanda Bear can move twice the speed of double opportunity attacks. It can then make one bite attack at a target of its choice. That's actually very cool. I don't know if you made this up or if you pulled spell vitalization off another creature, but I love this as like a spell, magic invigoration kind of vibe. I think that's actually very cool. I could see myself using that in a game where the players are traveling through like an or a wild magic area, right where the wildlife are warped in some way by the magic. Well, extract brain, Jesus. It's supposed to eat brains and have one eye. Oh, it's based on a creature of East African folklore. Oh, that's very cool, V-Bunny. I'm glad that you, and I guess that's why you have the poor depth perception. Like the Cyclops. Oh, that's very neat. So for anyone looking for something like this, I can tell you for challenge rating 4, this is pretty reasonably balanced, except for the extract brain damage. That seems like a little too much, V-Bunny. Oh, it has to be an incapacitated humanoid grappled by the Nanda Bear. So actually, no, there's nothing wrong with this. This is fine. This is a very balanced, terrifying challenge rating 4 beastie. I like it a lot. Thank you for sharing. You also submitted an item called the Icebox, also from V-Bunny. It's a wondrous, uncommon item. This small box is cold to touch and keeps the contents in it within a temperature that is conducive to last longer than normal. The box is 1 foot in diameter and at the mouth and 1 foot deep. The box can hold 25 pounds but not exceed a volume of 1 cubic foot. The box weighs 1 pound, empty, and gains weight equal to the amount of objects placed in it. Retrieving items from the box requires an action. If the box has a larger object that can then fit inside of it, or weighs down too much, The box breaks, and its contents are scattered below it. The box is turned upside down, its contents spill forth unharmed. Breathing creatures can survive in the box up to 1 minute after they begin to suffocate. And objects in the box are considered to be under the effects of the spell Gentle Repose, as long as they remain within the box. That's a very neat little. I really like the addition of the Gentle Repose feature. That's pretty cool. I think there is already a magical item that can do that. Yeah, there's a chest of preserving from the Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage feature that has some similar features to it. But I like the Gentle Repose thing. I kind of like the idea of like, you have this for like your rations or something, and like, you're going through and it's like, oh God, our gnome died and we're weeks from the nearest town. Oh God, we're gonna put the gnome in the icebox. It's a very fun little feature. Thank you very much for sharing, Feebunny. So a nice little monster and feature or item there. The Forgotten One submitted an item called the Sphere of Truth. This is an item we've seen before, I think. Okay, actually, we talked about this last time. So we're going to skip over this boy for now. We have our next one, an item or a race option submitted by, oh my goodness, my brain, Frost. I should have written it down. Frostbeard the Pirate? Oh God, Frosty, I've forgotten. Frosty Pirate. It's not Frostbeard. So thank you, Raventail. I apologize to your husband for me. This is the Maladrin, which I believe is the second time we've seen this boy. And where is there a zoom option here? I don't think there is. So I'm just gonna like manually zoom in, and hopefully that's gonna work. By the way, for anyone wondering, this uses the Home Brewery, which is a really, really awesome website for creating your own homebrew content that looks like this, like beautiful. So just, yeah, go ahead and do that. Like, make your own awesome, beautiful content. Rosie, I was asking, where's Pete today? Just curious. Pete had some family stuff that came up, so Pete was not able to make it today. He should hopefully be back around next Friday for Pete and Jeremy's D&D time, though. But, yeah. Elf subrace, the Maladrin. Maladrin are elves native to the Seelie and Unseelie courts of the Feywilds, a realm of elegance, transformation, and bountiful magic. Maladrin associate with the 4 phases of the lunar cycle. Each phase can have an effect on the Maladrin's personality, luminescence, and some abilities. Some Maladrin remain associated with a particular phase their entire lives, while others follow the lunar cycle and transform from one phase to another. I love this. And one of the reasons I love this right off the bat, so I know we talked about this in the past, but, and maybe I'm going to repeat a couple of things. Conceptually, very, very cool. The Eladrin are a Feywild elf, and the whole point of them is they change with the seasons. I think having this one that changes with the lunar cycle and the moon is really cool. I have a friend who is playing an Eladrin in a campaign that I'm running, and one of the things that he wanted to do with his character is have the character's Eladrin features that change with the seasons change with the real life seasons. The problem is, you know, we missed like a couple of months because of something. I think like, it was something was going on, so one of the players couldn't make it, and we missed meeting for a couple of months, and he just totally missed a season and was like, oh, crap. And then we played once in the next season, and it was like, oh, shit, because we missed about 6 months total of playing with like 1 or 2 sessions in between. So he was really bummed out. This is really cool because you could just be like, all right, what's the moon today? Boom, if you wanted to play in that way. Ravendale, maybe we didn't review it. Maybe we just saw it shared before, but we've definitely seen him. Let's dive in, though. Lunar phases. When finishing a long rest, a Maladrin may choose to change their lunar phase. There's no limit on how long a Maladrin may remain in a single phase. However, when they do transform, they must adopt the next phase of the lunar cycle. Oh, I actually really like that they have to follow the cycle. A Maladrin of the new moon phase must transform into a waxing moon phase next, and then the full moon, and finally the waning moon. Excellent, I love that. The cycle then repeats starting at the new moon. Oh, new moon. It is a phase of new beginnings, a period for planning, plotting, and taking new directions. A Maladrin in this phase is usually calm and contemplative. She is setting her plans and plotting a path forward. Alternatively, this phase can bring about depression and inaction. At night during this phase, Maladrin has very little color to their skin, eyes, and hair, and have no natural luminescence. In this phase, Maladrin are often mistaken for a drow. This is very cool right off the bat. I really love how you broke them into sections to like give an oomph for like, here's a way that you could RP this, or here's a different direction you could take this if you're not into that first one. So, everybody, I thought I had talked about this before too, like an older version, but either way, I'm very into it. Waxing Moon. It is a phase of growth, a period of expansion and positive action. A Maladrin in this phase is energetic and driven, always trying to move forward towards her goals and gain friends, wealth, or power. Alternatively, this phase can bring about selfishness and greed. At night during this phase, a Maladrin slowly gains a purple and blue hue to their dull gray skin. Also, the pale luminescence in their eyes and hair begins to glow in intensity. Love it. Very fitting, very cool. Full Moon. In this maze of abundance, transformation, and power. Full Moon is the phase of abundance, transformation, and power. A period of accomplishments. A Maladrin in this phase can be unpredictable but productive, as they will undertake any means to accomplish their goals. Alternatively, this phase can bring about irrationality and misdirected aggression. At night during this phase, a Maladrin gains a brilliant shimmer to their purple and blue hues in their skin, emulating the night sky. Also, their eyes and hair radiate a silvery luminescence about them. Waning Moon is a phase of entropy, a period of release and cessation. A Maladrin in this phase usually seeks to conclude any business they're conducting or resolve outstanding issues in their lives. Alternatively, this phase can bring about generosity and philanthropy, as Maladrin may feel the need to expel unnecessary possessions, sometimes people, from their life. At night during this phase, Maladrin loses most of the purple and blue hue to their dull gray skin. Also, the pale luminescence in their eyes and hair begins to fade in intensity. Before we even move past these, you nailed one very, very important thing here. And that is, you have sown the seeds for inspiration for a player wanting to play this subclass, play this race, this elf sub race, and really invest themselves. Is this actually? It might even be its own race, not an elf sub race. It is. I'm not sure if it's an elf sub race, but it is an elf sub race. I'm dumb. Sorry, guys. You have set the seeds of inspiration. You have sown. It's just awesome. It's great. You've given them different directions that they can take their characters through different phases, but you've also given the expanse of like the different ways a character can interpret a different player can choose to interpret the different phases. I love it. And more than that, it's extremely well written. That was just a sight read there. And despite the fact that I got tongue twisted because I'm bad at reading, apparently. I just expertly done. I'm very excited to read this. One thing I would note is you did accidentally write beings instead of begins, but everyone typos. And that's right at the end, last sentence there, in case you wanted to correct them. Yeah, V-Money. Jeremy, I can't tell. This is an elf subrace. It's literally staring at the word elf subrace. Yeah, I know, V-Bunny. I'm a blind boy. Yeah, I know, Raventail and V-Money. I'm a dumb lad sometimes. Tonight, my brain is... But anyway, let's keep... side effect of the bread. You say that, V-Bunny, but tiny sidebar, and then I'm back to the Maladrin. Jamie and I, tonight, made, from scratch, focaccia bread. And it was the most delicious focaccia bread I think I have ever had. And it was not a good idea to eat the focaccia bread, but I did. So I'm not feeling as great as I have been, but I'm still feeling pretty good because I didn't have that much focaccia bread. Because we were also making lasagna, which goes very well with, anyway, Maladrins. Let's go. Maladrin have the following traits in common, in addition to the traits they share with other elves. Your charisma score increases by 1. Radiant resistance, you have resistance to radiant damage. I like that a lot. I'm sorry, Maroon Sasquatch, I'm making you hungry. Bioluminescence. A Maladrin skin radiates with the luminescent magic of the moon, giving her the following properties or abilities based on her phase. New moon. You can try to hide when you are only lightly obscured, and your dark vision increases to 120 feet. Okay. Waxing moon. You gain proficiency in the deception and persuasion skills. If you're already proficient in either skill, your proficiency bonus is doubled for any check you make with that skill, and your move speed increases to 35 feet. Full moon. Your hair, skin, and eyes emit silvery light in a 20-foot radius, and you know the Word of Radiance cantrip. And waning moon. As an action, you can magically teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Once you use this trait, you cannot do so again until you finish a short or long rest. All right, this is very, very cool. I love these features. There are two very tiny little nitpicks I would make. Typically, you would sort these alphabetically. However, obviously, these ones, new moon, waxing, full moon, waning, you don't want to sort those alphabetically because it doesn't make sense. They're a cycle. And even beyond that, bioluminescence is such like a big feature compared with radiant resistance, which is such a small feature. I can understand wanting to put bioluminescence last. The one thing I would say is if there were a different way to format these, well, okay, we're talking about formatting here, folks. It's the idea that we're in a good spot. I wasn't immediately obvious that these were their, sub features to bioluminescence. But yes, one thing I would say here is on Waxing Moon, the proficiency and then the expertise, I would remove the expertise part, the double proficiency bonus. It's very much against convention for races to grant expertise in something. And even beyond that, I don't know. I think 2 proficiencies is pretty good. But that's my personal feel. Couldn't figure out how to do it, Frosty. That's fine. I mean, I think it works out either way. But yeah, I think the proficiency is just maybe a little much, a little heavy-handed. The Word of Radiance cantrip, that's a very interesting choice. Is there a reason you went with Word of Radiance over like the light cantrip or maybe dancing lights or something? Oh, is homebrew very hard to work with? I haven't worked with it a lot, to be frank. I just know it can make these very beautiful things. I mean, Word of Radiance like works, and I think it actually works pretty well. Yeah, I don't know. I wanted the full moon to be more offensive. Oh, you know what? That's a really great point, Frosty. That makes actually a lot of sense with how you wrote the full moon down here. Yeah, I love that. I'm fine with that. I mean, I got no qualms. One thing that might be worth mentioning. So on here, right, you described how the bioluminescence changes. I think you may want to include, right, in bioluminescence, the maximum radius of their bioluminescence. Is it 5 feet around them? Is it really just their square? And if they have any way of concealing that, right? Does clothing cover that for the most part? That might be something to mention. I'm not sure exactly, but I think at the very least defining, maybe a Maladrin skin radiates in a 5-foot radius, radiates luminescent magic in a 5, or a Maladrin skin radiates with bioluminescent magic of the moon in a 5-foot radius, giving her the following abilities based on her phase. There we go. I'm bad at words. But giving that a radius might help. Otherwise, these are all pretty great. Again, at the proficiency bonus might be a little much. But otherwise, very, very cool. I love this a lot. Can they even hide in darkness? Yeah, that's exactly the question I was going for, V-Bunny, right? can the Maladrin, right, in any way dull their bioluminescence? I think it's okay if they can't. That's just a question I have. Not even something that needs to necessarily be described here, but having a radius might help with that. Oh, very exciting. Maladrin backgrounds. So you also created a background specifically, or two specifically for this. I'm very excited. The Court of Radiance. The Court of Radiance is a religious group of Maladrin from the Seelie Court, whom believe the moon goddess should be the source of all light and grace in the world. These Maladrin spend their entire lives in the full moon lunar phase and are eternally at odds with the Coven of the Darkest Night, as well as those who worship the sun, whose harsh, burning light dampens the radius of their goddess. These Maladrin are typically lawful. Ooh. They gain religion and arcana, a type of musical instrument, a small silver mirror, and a pouch containing 10 gold. I really like that. That's a very, very cool background. The one thing I would mention is typically backgrounds, for example, if I open up the Acolyte, right? Yeah, the Acolyte, right? They'll have another like feature, and those features are kind of rare and few and far between. That might be something worth mentioning on here. And actually, I saw you have a sidebar, but I can't see your sidebar. Let me see what I can do here. If can I copy it? Ah, I see, you do. It's in your sidebar, and I'm a fool. Aha. I've copied the text that I cannot see and pasted it. Both background options benefit from the Acolyte feature. You're way ahead of me. Yep. Yeah, no idea why, because I can see in the bottom of my page. Yeah, I know, Frosty, right? Sometimes Chrome does dumb. Yeah, perfect. Absolutely perfect then. I've got no issues. I would recommend using the Acolyte feature there. And then Coven of the Darkest Night. The Coven of the Darkest Night is a religious group of Maladrin from the Unseelie Court who believe that the moon goddess should be the sole guardian of the night sky. They believe radiant light belongs to the sun god. They believe radiant light belongs to the sun god and night to be filled only with the deepest darkness. I see. These Maladrin spend their entire lives in the new moon lunar phase and are eternally at war with the Court of Radiance, as well as those who seek to bring light to the darkness of the night. These Maladrin are typically chaotic. Religion, stealth, disguise kit, a small knife, black robes, and a tiny onyx statuette of a woman. And a pouch containing 15 gold. I love it. These are really nice, simple, clean little backgrounds. I like them quite a bit. I think if you were going to like expand on a campaign setting for these guys, then you would probably want to add like some suggested characteristics, right? Personality traits or ideals or bonds or flaws related to these backgrounds. However, that's not even really necessary. I think just as they stand here, these are really great little additions for any kind of game. As for the proficiency bonus, yeah, honestly, I think even without that feature, like even without the expertise, I think just you gain proficiency, deception, and persuasion skills if you do not already have them, right? That I think that would be a fine feature just in its own right. I don't think it necessarily needs any more. That's my personal feel on it, especially since you had the movement speed on there too. Yeah, I think that's my personal feeling on it. I don't think it necessarily needs the extra stuff. I would say, what's the wood elf? So wood elves also get that extra 5 speed, and I'm wondering. And this is here's where we're getting into. We're at the technical little nitpicks here. Instead of your move speed, the text you would want to say is, I think it's from the wood elf, is your base walking speed increases to 35 feet. Is the language you'd want to use, because I guess there are certain mechanics that interact with your base speed. Because your movement speed, right, is based on subclasses might affect that in different ways, like with unarmored movement or whatever. It's just like a minutia text thing, but overall, very, very cool. Yeah, I mean, you could give them a use of Misty Step Rosia instead of for anything else for Waning Moon, but I kind of like the idea that it doesn't actually use the Misty Step spell in this case, because you're not casting a spell, Misty Step, right? You have this physical magic that is not necessarily a spell. I think it's fine to just have that as is. Yeah, Frosty, overall, hell yeah, absolutely knocked it out of the park. This is a phenomenal sub race, extremely well done. Typically when we're looking at this kind of stuff that's shared in the the workshop, we don't go through the whole 5 categories for valuation. But in this hypothetical that we are, I think there's definitely space for this. It's a really cool, unique concept. It's an inspiring concept, and you've taken that inspiring concept and you've followed through with this detailed flavor and all of this direction for inspiration for players. It's pretty well balanced. I got no problems here at all. Like, there's no balance issues with this in the least bit. It's and going back on flavor, all of the features that you give it, like the radiant resistance, I wouldn't have thought of that, but that super backs up their kind of concept that you've been going with. Even when you get to the Darkest Night versus the Court of Radiance, the idea that both of them have the strong connection to radiance and the darkness and the light respectively, like that radiant resistance really backs that up actually in a really cool way. I don't think there are any playability issues here. I don't think there are any design issues here, besides maybe like a little bit of phrasing. Overall, it's beautiful. I really appreciate you sharing it here. I love seeing this kind of stuff. It really, makes me happy. It's kind of like, I was talking about the Unearthed Arcana earlier. When I see that Genie subclass after I've just made my own Genie subclass, and I'm like, wow, this is a really, really awesome take that Wizards has for the Genie from the Unearthed Arcana. That makes me think, wow, that's so different from the direction I took it. And honestly, I think theirs is better than the direction I took it, to be frank. But it still is like very cool to see the two different takes and directions things can go. Yeah, it's really nice. I'm really glad to share that. If you make any more stuff, please do share it. We'd love to see it. I know my Genie subclass is good, V-Bunny. I don't have any issue there. But personally, I would rather play, I don't know if I'd rather play there. I'd rather play like a combination of the two, but you can't always get both. Anyway, thank you so much again, Frosty Pirate, for sharing. We have 2 last things, and they are both, one is a full class from Cherry. Cherry, I'm going to be able to look at this, but I'm not going to be able to look at everything here. So I'm going to have to give you a kind of brief look at this boy, because there's a lot in this puppeteer. I mean, I'd have to take a whole, show just to look at this with how much is there. But so we're going to look at the puppeteer, and we're going to look at this Path of the Warrior. This is a subclass that V-Bunny created for the Barbarian. I'm going to quickly look at the puppeteer first. So the idea of the puppeteer. Puppeteer is a nightmare for any creature that leaves a body behind as they die, as they reanimated the corpse with part of the creator's soul still attached to the puppet they create, being a body of true horror and a nightmare for those who have encountered them in their past, a master of manipulation and the antithesis of beauty. Puppeteers serve as a way to play for those who want to strike terror on their enemies from a distance just by existing alone. Not everyone is born with the power of magic, while some are born with immense levels of magical ability, and still there are others who have the potential but are unable to release their power. A small class of students of science and magic of war devise a way to aid their fellow weaker magic users in terms of combat and survivability, a tool that enhances one's magical prowess and makes use of their full scientific knowledge. These small magical strings. A puppeteer can control their puppet and the corpse of others to its fullest potential. Not only is the puppet strong in its own right, but it amplifies one's ability and skill, only limited by the way that a puppeteer uses his or her puppet. giving them a small enhancement to their magic ability and boosting them fighting the battlefield. So I think, from what I understand here, so there's a public place for one, there's tasks for the battlefield, use eyes or hands, something to the. So I think the way this is working, if I understand correctly, the idea you're going for on the puppeteer is you're literally taking a person, whether it be take care, Maroon Sasquatch. It was awesome seeing you, and thank you so much for the follow. Sorry I missed you. Good evening. I'm glad you liked what you saw. My brain. So I think what I'm understanding here is the puppeteer literally takes either a living person who's willing or a dead person, and magically uses them almost like a thrall, right, to work through. And they magically control them or something along those lines. Yeah, kind of like a spell casting focus, but a creature. So from a Frankenstein's monster, but its body and mind are enslaved to you. Okay. From a greater playability perspective, this is incredibly dark and incredibly brutal. Yikes. I'm not sure where to really go from there. Like, I think space, is there room for this in 5e? I mean, yeah, in terms of there isn't anything that really does this. The closest is the great old one, Warlock, has a create thrall feature that does something like not really this like this. And there are a couple other features like Gayish or Dominate Person that can do things vaguely similar to this. But this is a very, very dark bent to it. Deep knowledge of lobotomy to control the corpses of others. Oh, Jesus. Okay. So scrolling down, you made a nice table here. This is good. Many classes need you need like a table of abilities and features, and that works. And I see it is a spells known. It is a spell class, and a spells known class. Very few spells known. Interesting. Necromancer Wizard, Necromancer Warlock. Yeah. Yeah. Let me jump through here. So you went through all the right steps here, right? You gave it, hit points. You gave it proficiencies that they can pick from. I think you did all the right things for creating a class based on the classes that like already exist right off the bat. You gave it 2 saving proficiencies, which made perfect sense. Starting equipment, Arcane Sting Dispenser. That's what is that? Surgeon Mask of your own design. That's pretty cool. I like that idea. 2 Yarn of Arcane String. I guess that's what you use to puppet people. A human-sized puppet that is made of wood. Oh God, you can design it as a character. It will always be 2 levels lower than you. Oh dear. See, that's where we're getting too funky here. You're giving them like a playable like companion that uses class levels. Also, Arcane Sting, 2d4 plus dex, 4d4 plus dex piercing damage, range of 40, 80, grapple versus pulled toward you. All right, so the Arcane Sting thing that you made there is, yeah, that's not something you can actually use. Just conceptually, you hit a target once and you now completely control them. That's just, yeah, that's not really a thing for 5th edition D&D. How you choose to use this in your own game, I mean, sure, that's fine. But for overall general use in 5e, that's just not really workable, especially at low levels. And even then, the 4d4 plus 4 damage is like, that's a lot of damage for like a regular attack. But I guess if it's a special like one or two, I guess in this case twice use, right? That miint be something. Intelligence modifier. and you choose limited to schools, enchantment, and abjuration. So this is kind of like the arcane trickster, I think, progression, except your enchantment and abjuration. Yeah, I mean that's fine. I think you've done the spell casting well in that case. Healing hands. I see it. You get some extra spells based on your level. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that like works. First level, you build a puppet without any crops. You can find the features, humanoids. All the attack. Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah. Spells. Yeah, I'm not sure where to go from this. Like, I think if you wanted to go in this direction, what you might want to do rather than having it be like, yeah, I see small puppets, medium puppets, large puppets. If you really wanted to go in that direction, what I might do is I might make a monster stat block for these 3 puppets. I know there was recently an Unearthed Arcana. What is subclasses 3? Maybe. No, I don't think it was subclasses 3. My brain. Yeah. Oh, it was. I think it was actually. No, it wasn't at all. There was man. For the ranger, it changed class features. Okay, class features. Here, I'll link it in the chat in case you're interested, Cherry. But in this Unearthed Arcana that I'm putting there are some stat blocks under the ranger, right, for their Beast of Earth and Beast of Air. And I think if you created little stat blocks for this puppet, that might be the direction to go. I can see that you said it's a point buy system for your puppet, but like I don't know. It's funky. It's a little funky. It's hard to like for me to quite understand. It's got a D4 unarmed attack. It's got so I think the idea that you're going for, right, is you're just always playing through the puppet. Yeah, you can't give it like immunity to necrotic damage and poison damage and tons of resistances. It just, yeah, I just don't think this is really, at least in terms of greater use outside of your own home game. I don't think you can do this as like a level 1. This is your class feature, right? Is you gain this thing that is immune to like major damage types, necrotic and poison, resistant to other major damage types. And from like a playability perspective, vulnerability to fire, you come up against any enemy that uses fire, and the player who's playing the puppeteer is going to be really, really ticked off because their thing is going to just be destroyed. Yeah, and it looks like you steal proficiencies from the corpses of creatures. And I see you have parts of stat blocks down here. Yeah. Is the puppet's your main gimmick? Yeah, I think maybe these just like need to be largely scrapped or toned down substantially. The resistance parts, at least the resistance and immunities, and the vulnerability. I think that maybe you were basing that on like a scarecrow or something as a construct. But yeah, I'm just not sure it really works as like a core deal in that regard. But let's continue looking at these guys. The puppet goes right after you on initiative. See, that's a good move. You don't need to give it orders. It will attempt to follow previous orders. Yep, or type goes hostile target. I did try to use the stat blocks, but they became very useless in later levels. Yeah, well, I mean, as an example, right, of like how to make a stat block is how something like that could go. Um, it wouldn't have to just be something like that. Um, fifth level, aside from effective ones, you can control a willing creature or creature you choose. Willing needs to make strength saving throw, or become a puppet of your own will. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, like fifth level feature, which is make a strength saving throw, or you completely control the creature. That just isn't something you can do in fifth edition D&D. They can make a saving at the beginning of their turn. Um, yeah, this is just like the dominate monster spell, but you can always do it at fifth level. Yeah, that's not not like really playable from a wider perspective. Again, a lot of our context in the comments we're talking, I give here our feedback is if you were going to take this and publish this and give this to anyone to use in their own games that has no context of how you run your game, right? Yeah, I get where you're going for, Razia. I'm just not sure. And even from a space perspective, I was thinking about it more, and I'm just thinking like this feels like I could just play a necromancer, right? And with the raise dead spell or with the animate dead spell, and in what way do the zombies have to be really different from a puppet, right? I mean, you could just flavor them as being the same kind of vibe. Um, Puppet will automatically counter as a reaction to an attack that misses it. Yeah, it just seems a little complicated. Um, and I know it's meant to be a whole class. And again, I can't give you the time to like look everything over and read everything over right now, where we'd be here forever. But I guess my just thought right off the top is it's just a bit of a funky direction. I see you did put some subclasses in. Subclass question mark. Um, Feral puppet. And I see you've created some stuff where you can like kind of build a beast kind of deal. Um, okay, I think there's some really cool concepts in here actually, like building a beast kind of vibe. Um, Puppet. Yeah, I'm just really not sure what more feedback I can really give you here without taking a lot of a ton of time to really dig through everything. Uh, I'm sorry I don't have a lot to give you here for good feedback. Um, I guess yeah, this might be perfectly fine for your own uses, and I dig that. But for a larger, overarching um, use case, it would be pretty tough to make something like this. Raventail saying, I like the puppeteer idea personally, but I think having more than one to control is kind of OP and puts a lot on one player. Yeah, I mean, even beyond that, like, this is very gruesome. This is a very, very brutal thing. I don't think Wizards would ever make something like this. And not because of not because it's like a bad necessary design or concept. It's just very gruesome for 5e. I mean, yeah, I know she's a spelled combination wrong, but whatever. Lay off a little bit with the correction on typos. Things happen, but um, yeah, I guess what I would say is it looks like, from what I can tell you right off the bat, this is going in the right direction, right? You have all the right parts here, starting to build a subclass. It's just there's some major balance concerns just on the first couple of features that I've noticed here. And I know you have one potential kind of subclass deal here, right, with the arcane puppet. And it looks like this other Grand Guardian is another subclass, maybe. Um, and then Feral Puppet is also a subclass. I like the idea that you've considered, making different subclasses for this. That's something that is essential if you're going to make a whole class. You need it to have the space to hold different sub-archetypes. But yeah, and roguish puppet, I see. Interesting. Yeah, I would need to really look at all these too. The subclass is not based on your characters for your puppet. Oh dear. Interesting. Well, it effectively would be your subclass. It's just your puppet specialization. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I'm not sure what more to say. It took me a very long time to really dig through all of this, but I think you've definitely started off going in the right direction in terms of putting together a class, and I think it's just a little bit of thinking of the balance implications of some of the things, such as being able to just instantly control a creature if they fail a save, being able to do that over and over. Like if that were a one-time use deal, that would be something. If it only targeted humanoids, that might be something. But the fact that it's anything, if they fail a save, you control it, is just too whack for 5e. Other stuff like, the puppet getting a reaction, make it attack as a reaction. If the attack misses it, that makes sense. Like, that's actually fine. Like, there's actually no balance implication. That's a pretty good ability. It's just figuring out how many you can control and how they work that would just take me a long time to figure out. I appreciate that you shared it, and it is a cool concept. I don't have the time right now to dig through the whole deal. But thank you for sharing it. V-Bunny, the last thing we're going to talk about this evening, and thank you again, everybody who's been hanging out and submitting and talking, is a Path of the Warrior subclass of Barbarian. Warrior Barbarians come in all shapes and sizes, warriors are by far the most strategic of barbarians, able to preserve their inner rage and channel it into specialization of a certain type of combat. Perhaps you gain this knowledge through in the streets, perhaps you learn of the pit fighting, underground fighting, organized fighting events, or just by studying others. However you gain this, it is unwise to challenge your combat prowess. All right, Razia. Well, I hope you sleep well. I hope you don't get dizzy. Remember, lots of water. Stay hydrated. I'm pretty much out. Okay, so at third level, you choose from the following combat specializations: mounted, whip specialist, net specialist, range specialist. I see how you're going. Going here. Let's see. When you hit a creature with melee attack while mounted, you may add your rage damage even if you're not raging. A creature with melee attack, you may add your rage damage twice instead of once. Interesting. I think every single barbarian's third level feature involves them raging. Ancestral Guardian, when you enter your rage, Battle Rager, when you enter when you're raging, Berserker, when you Frenzy, when you enter a rage, Totem Warrior doesn't, oh no, while raging. So this is a huge departure, having stuff that affects you when you're not raging. Hey Data, you're a cat. He is a baby. Data, say hello. Say hello. Please? Who's your boy? Well, Data, say hello. Tell them you love them. All right, he does not love me right now. You can sit on my chair while I talk to people. Please don't jump on top of that. Is a very substantial departure. I think I get your idea, right, with going with a more tactical barbarian. But right off the bat, whip specialist, you have the whip with a rage property, you can hit a creature with a whip. While raging, you pull the creature 5 feet closer, and then with a strength check. On a fair, they were trained. Oh my god. Yeah, from a balance perspective, you can't make an on-hit save effect. Like that's a playability issue. And then beyond that, an on-hit always restrained. That's wild, V-Bunny. That's just totally busted. even if that's your only feature, that's absolutely horseshit busted. Net Specialist, it does some bludgeoning damage, and when you're raging, you throw a 20 feet with disadvantage. That's pretty cool. I actually like that a lot. It's a cool, like, how do you, you can fucking huck that net. Range Specialist, modifier of damage rolls. Okay, so everything's finesse for range. Okay. And you can add your range damage thrown and ranged weapons and the benefit of reckless attack while wielding a ranged weapon. That's pretty cool. I like what you did with range specialist too. Oversized weapon specialist. So the problem, I see you went in a lot of directions with these. The problem I think that I have right here is, like, you tried to make it look like one of these for everything. And did you go? Okay. I think what got it. It's hard for me to, like. Let me look at these 6th, 10th, and 14th level first. You get a 6th level, proficiency with heavy armor, and benefits of rage while in heavy armor, and confident spells while and in confident spells while raging. Yeah, and that's that's crazy. Additionally, rage not end early if you attack a hostile creature. Yeah, that's a super late level rogue feature that you just gave them at 6th level. Warrior's Resolve, you can regain rage while taking a short rest. And you may gain benefits. Which one's for long? And you may gain the benefits of this feature a number of times equal for a long rest. Yeah, I mean, that just is pretty much infinite based on the number of short rests people take between long rests. Rage of the Warrior, 14th level, is crit on a 19 to 20. Especially when you're raging, you roll damage for attack or non-strike. You inflict maximum possible damage rather than rolling. Everybody, this is absolutely just busted beyond reason. You just deal maximum damage. Yeah. Yeah, everybody, this is absolutely busted. From a balance perspective, these are just insane. It's once per turn. That's still all right. That's not as busted, but that's still pretty busted. The qualm that I seem to have is at this 3rd level. So, like, the direction I thought you were going at first was this kind of tactician barbarian, and what you ended up going with was, here are a bunch of specific features depending on the kind of primary weapon you want to wield. Yeah, I'm not sure if this really makes sense in barbarian. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, let's look at the rest of these. You got 2 sizes larger than you. Additional grappling and raging. You've got a slam attack. That's very arm straightness, future opponent. Yeah, like, this is just incredibly powerful. I mean, there's just a lot of power in this, and yeah, I don't know. V-Bunny, the extra maximum damage is not in a feat. That is not a feat. You might be thinking of Savage Attacker, which lets you re-roll the damage that you deal once per turn on a single attack. But there is no feat that lets you do maximum damage on an attack. Or if it is, it's not in 5th edition D&D. Not at least official. But yeah, it's cool. Like, I get where you're coming from. This, to me, though, like all these different features and finesse stuff, this screams fighter to me more than barbarian. I thought this was going to be more like a chieftain kind of deal. And then this 3rd level feature would have been more focused on, like, I don't know, tactics and finesse and strategy a little bit, preferably in a way that doesn't overlap the Battle Master all that much. But overall, I think there's some very cool mechanics here and some very cool features, especially like the Net Specialist. I very much like what you did with that. There's just a little bit a little bit too much going on. And the power level is just a little bit high. Yeah, especially what shield specialist, shield throw attack. That's actually pretty cool. All creatures hit by the attack. Wait, all creatures by the attack? Yeah, did it hits all creatures in a 20-foot like line or something? Because that is wild. Yeah, V-Bunny, but like not like that. Resistance to all damage is weaker by a huge margin than roll a strength check every time you get hit by this whip or you're restrained. Just this is absolute horseshit busted compared to that. But even just from the conceptual perspective, I think this kind of like diversity, and even beyond that, I feel like making a subclass that's focused around the net. I would have wanted to see features at 6th level, at 10th level, at 14th level, in the way that like the Totem Warrior, right, has bear, eagle, elk, tiger, wolf, and then has the same at 6th level, and then has the same at 14th level, right? I think I would have liked to see that kind of a concept here. If you were going to go in this direction with all these specific specializations, I would have liked to see those reflected at the upper levels. This is just a grapple check, but it is against restrained. Yeah, that's why it's broken, V-Bunny. That's why it's incredibly broken. Like, the shield spell works like Chaos Bolt. I'm sorry, let me look at it. D4s, it bounces the target. Oh, I see. Yep, okay. Different creature. Yeah, that's also in... Well, let's see. While you're rolling a shield range for special shield throw attack. So is this either one of your attacks to make the shield throw, or is it your action to make the shield throw? Because that's your action to make the shield throw. I don't think that's necessarily broken. It's just like it's actually a neat little ability. I actually kind of like that. But if this is just one of your attacks for a turn, like, I don't know, my dude. Plus just an extra floating +1 AC is like, I don't know. It is your action to make the shield throw. All right, in that case, you might want to revise the text there, because right now it just looks like one of your special attacks, one of your attack rolls would be a shield throw rather than it being like something else. The +1 AC is a fighting style. Yeah, and the reason it's I know V-Money, and there's the reason it's a fighting style, and it's the only thing. The way this works, the way you have it here is, right, you can take 3 levels in Barbarian and get your shield specialist, and then go a level in Fighter and gain the defense fighting style, and then like there are things that create floating bonuses, and you want to avoid using floating bonuses if you can help it, because they're really powerful. A fighter dipping 3 levels in Barbarian for reckless attack and rage and primal path, that's like a really pretty reasonable thing for a fighter to do. It's not going to make them that much weaker, especially if they can get a floating armor class and do a whole shitload of damage. But yeah, I mean, I like the feature. Like, I like the shield attack. I don't necessarily have an issue with that, but well, I'm not saying that does a shitload of damage. It's 2d4 plus your strength modifier. The point is, the fucking stuff you get at these higher levels is really powerful. And taking 1 level in Fighter to get that, or is it 2 levels in Fighter for the fighting style? No, it's 1 level in Fighter, and then going, all these levels in Barbarian and juicing yourself. Be like, oh yes, my heavy armor wielding, concentrating on, like, why Why can you concentrate on spells, everybody? There's no reason that you can like, I get it. Your idea is, oh, you reserve. You're not a spellcaster. There are no spells for the barbarian. Like, this is just in there just so people multi-class into this. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me, is what I'm getting at. You shouldn't design your subclass for the intention of it being multi-classed so people can abuse rage. In my opinion, I think that's a poor design choice. But overall, I think it's just a little discordant for me. I would rather see, right, a net and spear like the gladiator, where their whole thing is the subclass is about using a net and using a spear. And all of the subclass features, you know, their third level ties into that. And maybe you use this net specialist, and maybe you have a spear specialist that I just don't see because I'm bad. A one-handed weapon specialist, right? Maybe like have that in there for your spear, right? Or actually, is there a thrown weapon one? Where was the thrown weapon? You said there was one. I saw there was one for thrown weapon earlier. Or maybe I was reading that wrong. It was ranged weapon specialist, right? If you apply this to like a spear, and this instead of ranged weapons just to your spears, and you kept the net thing, and like this is a really good, you get both of these at third level, awesome beginning chassis for a gladiator barbarian. And then when you get to like legitimately, those are two really great features for the. I read the beginning part. You choose one of these combat specializations and you gain additional choice at 6th level. I get that. I know. But like, I don't know. I just think you're trying to do too much, and then these features are way too strong. But that's my personal take on it. Either way, I think there's some really, really cool mechanics in here. The shield like bouncing around and the shield throw, that's a cool feature. I like that. It's neat. The extra range on your net, very cool. Being able to add your range and recklessly attack with your thrown weapons, very neat. I like those quite a bit. The whip specialist is too crazy. But I don't know. I guess I would really love to see these two things took together on a new subclass specifically focused around the net and spear, or something along those lines. Or even like, while wielding versatile weapon and no other weapons, you're getting a bonus damage though you're willing to do it, even if you're not. That's pretty cool. I love that. That seems like a cool starting place for like, I know in 4th edition there was a weapon called a bastard sword. With the idea that it's a sword that's not quite a great sword, right? But it's bigger than a long sword. And it was a D10 one-handed weapon. And you need a special proficiency to use it and all sorts of crap. And that's kind of what this feels like to me. And that would maybe feel good on, because that's what it's meant for. It's made for your D10 longsword. And I could see this as being a cool starting point for a subclass that focuses on, like, I don't know, like marauding, perhaps. I don't know. I'm not sure precisely which direction I take it. I know Mike Merle's, someone quite a while ago on his homebrew show on Twitch, did some stuff about, started working on a marauder subclass for a barbarian. And maybe there'd be some cool inspiration to find there. But yeah, I'm just not sure. What else is versatile besides the longsword? Well, either way, I guess my overall kind of takeaway on this guy isn't like a quarterstaff and spear. Yeah, but I guess my overall takeaway is it's cool, but I think you'd be better off taking these individual nuggets or maybe a couple paired things here and there and building more focused subclasses, because these 6th, 11th, and 14th level features, these to me, I mean, reserved does make a little bit sense. I'll say the concept of your reserved rage makes a little bit of sense for just like the name of it, right? The idea of you being able to reserve your rage makes sense. It's more tactically minded barbarian. But Warrior's Resolve and Rage of the Warrior, like, these are just power features. To me, they don't reflect, right, the tactics that I think you were originally going with. I don't know. I just like to see it's a little more focused rather than just such a widespread net. But that's my personal take, you know. We each go about things their own way. Wizards went about the Genie a very different way than I did. And both of us came out to usable options. I think theirs is a little better, frankly, but, you know, feel free to disagree. When I say I like this net and range specialist, what you did here, I like really, really would like this as like the level, you know, as like a level 3 thing. And maybe there's another level 3 thing too, right? That like, that could also go on there to start off like a true gladiator barbarian, because there isn't one. And there should be, because people love the idea of playing a gladiator. That's such like an archetype that fits so well in barbarian. And so like these two things, and maybe like I don't know, I think there's a defensive duelist feat, right, that lets you deflect, you know, as your reaction, add your armor, add your proficiency bonus to your armor class or something, parry an attack. So like, yeah, if that's what your idea is to make this a gladiator barbarian, I would definitely narrow this down. I'd personally narrow it down to like the spear / trident and net kind of vibe, and maybe you can keep the shield on there too. But I would just give them all 3 of those and stick that as like a 3rd level thing. And maybe it even needs more power than that. Maybe it needs that riposte, right? That parry option for a reaction. But that's kind of the direction I would kind of go with this guy, rather than, you know, mounted and whip and oversized weapon. And it's just getting a little too up there, in my opinion. There's too much stuff I think going on. But that is all I think that I've got to babble about today. Sorry guys, I get lost sometimes, especially when we're so late and I've just been for 2 hours or 3 hours now alone, because Pete was around. Rosia, oh, you're back. Where did the seasonal Viking go? I guess it got buried. I'm not sure, Rosia. Typically, Pete is the one who keeps track of all this, but again, Pete's not here this evening because of family matters. I'm not sure. I think I would message Pete about it and ask and see what he can give you for that. Snowstorm also got buried. Well, so, you know, sometimes we miss some stuff, guys. You know, when we have a ton of stuff come in, I know a couple weeks ago we had a ton come in, and sometimes we miss things. We don't promise to go over literally everything that gets put through, because so much stuff gets put through. But we do try and get over what we can get over, because people like to see their stuff, and there's a reason we put it all in here. So thank you again, everybody. I have been babbling for too long now. We love you guys. We appreciate you all very much. Everybody, again, thank you very much for sharing. I know sometimes I can come across as a little confrontational. Everybody and I, we're cool. We know each other. We're all good about this stuff. He knows that I don't mean any offense, right, by coming at this in the way I did. It's more of just, I see what he was going for, and I'm also inspired for it, and we just both feel strongly. But alas, it is late. I must away. Thank you everyone for hanging out this evening, for watching, for chatting along in the chat and joining us this evening. If you like Pete and Jeremy's, if you like this evening, you might like some of the other stuff we do here on this channel. On Fridays, we do a cool 3 one-shot adventures featuring our community. This week is going to be, blessingly, back to the basics, the stuff that we love and know about Pete and Jeremy's D&D time. We're going to do 3 low-level adventure story and Fable tier, maybe a Fable boss battle. We'll see. It's going to be very cool. I'm very, very excited. So tune in again Friday at 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be fun. So do that. We love you guys. I'm Jeremy, and this is Pete and Jeremy's D&D time. Good night, everyone.